What up? Word up, my people. It's December 5th, 2021. It is Christmas time. Obviously, as you can see, I've already recorded this shit twice, but my fucking camera shut down in the middle of the shoot, and I want to punch it in its fucking face. And motherfucking I'm going to work really hard in this video not to use profanity. So, but my camera just shut down, asshole. All right, so today what I would like to talk to you about, I'm going to try to jump right into this because I've been distracted and my camera's already fucking malfunctioned once. Sorry. Anyway, all right, so here's the deal. I want to obviously release the ebook, which I think is the way most people purchase and read books these days. Not me, I'm old school. I like a physical copy, not necessarily hardcover, although I typically do buy hardcovers if they're available. But for someone like me, a self-published author, self-published author, we're just going to call me that because I'm close enough. I will be in a month. Literally a month. No, it's not December 3rd, it's December 5th. And book one publishes January 4th, which is 1 day short of 1 month from today. I didn't even realize that. And book two will publish like literally a month later, February 4th. So that's super exciting because we are super duper duper close. So I like to buy a physical copy of a book. I love audiobooks. That's probably the way I consume most books these days because my schedule is crazy. And when I am home, it's like I work from home, so I tend to work at home. That may change now that my business is shifting. But even if I listen to an audiobook, I like to have a physical copy on my bookshelf upstairs because it's like a little trophy, and I want to show off the fact that I read this book because I don't know, I'm weird. Most people buy ebooks, I think, these days. I don't know if there's no evidence. That's an opinion. So obviously I want to have the ebook version, but I'm obviously going to have a print copy because I want a print copy, and so I do want to make that available, print version, as well for people. But I love audiobooks. Like a good audiobook is like there's no better way for me to drive a long drive than to get sucked into a story in an audiobook. I love it. So I want an audiobook for my books. And because of my history, because of my background as a videographer, working with video, which obviously means I also have to work with audio, I have decided to record my own audiobook and to do the narration myself. So I will show you, I guess here's as good a time as any. Here is an excerpt, a clip of me actually reading a chapter from my book. Take it away, Eric.
Chapter 3, Haunted Dream. Autumn had fallen hard, yet a rogue summer storm pressed itself in among the cooler days and falling leaves. Elliot was picking his way along a rough patch of stony ground when a gale, a lingering fragment of the former season, bullied its way in from the coastal region far to the east. For hours, Elliot pressed on.
So, here's the thing about recording an audiobook.
Storm clouds pleaded
like anything else in the publishing world, it's complicated. The requirements for, how loud it can be, how quiet it can be, the window has to be between this and this is very precise. Then Audible, which is the primary audiobook retailer in the United States, at least, which is, of course, a subsidiary of Amazon, of course. They have restrictions. They're probably the most restricted in how these are formatted. What, how they're, there has to be a certain amount of dead air or room sound, like what's that called? Ambient room sound. That's not what they call it, but whatever. At the beginning, and then a few seconds at the end, same thing. And then you have to have the name of the chapter at the beginning of every track, and every chapter or section exists on its own track, that kind of thing. So it's not complicated, and I am not engineering it myself. I am getting my brother to do it. So I do video for a living, but I've actually, audio is not my strong suit. So my brother has always loved audio, working with audio and recording, and he's tried to set up a few recording studios before and whatnot, and so on and so forth, and yada, 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 and blah, 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 blah. I don't know why I'm just randomly making them. Why do I sound like that right now? I don't know why I sound like that. I do know why, because I was up until 3 o'clock last morning, because I had a show last night, and I didn't get home until 3 a.m. So I am a little bit tired today, but mostly my voice is tired, which is interesting because that means I really shouldn't record an audiobook today. Any chapters for an audiobook. So here's kind of how I did it. I recorded the prologue and the first 2 chapters, I believe, and I sent that to about 5 beta testers, because a good narrator can make a book even better. The pleasure of reading a book better. The book is what it is, but a good narrator, audiobook narrator, can really enhance that experience. A bad narrator can ruin the book. It can be a solid, great book, but if your only experience is hearing the book read by someone who isn't any good, that can legitimately ruin the book, in my experience. So I have read before. I think I've got a decent speaking voice. I've been a speaker. I've done acting, different things like that. So I figured I would be fine to do this myself, right? To record the audiobook myself. But due diligence, send this thing out to some beta testers and get them to give me feedback. Could they listen to me read an entire book? Because that is what I'm going to be asking people to do. And a couple things about the author reading their own audiobook. I do like that. I've listened to a few books read by the author. And one that comes to mind is I've listened to Stephen King read the audiobook for 1 or 2 of his books. And Stephen King doesn't have like the kind of speaking voice that you would necessarily want to listen to for hours and hours and hours. But there's something about the author reading their own work that, for me at least, connects me to the material in a way that any other narrator doesn't. And it doesn't matter to me that he maybe doesn't have the skill as a narrator that another narrator might. You can hear the life of the story the way the author intended it, rather than hearing a narrator's interpretation of what the author intended. So the inflection, the pacing, all of those things reflect the author's intention if the author reads it. So I love that idea, that concept. I'm not sure how weighty that is, but one thing with a fantasy series like what I'm doing is when you listen to the audiobook, assuming that you do, you will hear me pronounce all these words that I've made up the way that they exist in my head, which I can guarantee you would not exist. You wouldn't hear them the same way just by reading them off the page, probably. Chances are you would read them a different way. And it's always funny to me, it's been funny during this entire process with Logan, my illustrator, when he would call and want to talk to me about a certain scene or, a character or a location or how he's going to illustrate a particular chapter, and he starts to like the area, the geographical region that books 1 and 2 take place in is called Carde, Carde, and he would always pronounce it card, which makes sense because that's, but it's actually pronounced Carde, not card. But he would know that. And the region that most of book 3 takes place in is called Austrost, but he pronounced it Austrost. It's just hilarious to me. And then there are other things like Akubade, which is a being in the book 3, and in book 2, and he would, I think he called that thing something new every time he asked me about it on the phone. So that's always interesting to me, to be able to pronounce these words as I intended for them to be pronounced. And I can do that in the audiobook. So the audiobook is actually really fun to record. It has been more fun than a lot of the deep rewrites that I've had to do. When, for example, I got my developmental edit back from my original Scarecrow Hunters manuscript, and my editor said this is 2 books. Rewriting what became book 1, the Scarecrow Hunters, for that was easy, but trying to figure out how to rewrite the second half of this story into book 2, A Greedy Shadow, that was so complicated, and I would get bogged down, and I would kind of lose the joy of it until I would finally find this golden thread and follow that thread, and then be able to shape book 2 around that. Then it would get good again. That's when I would start writing, and I would get that writer's high. There are times, like right now, the time that I've worked on book 3, I caught that groove where I would get a writer's high for a bit. But really, honestly, a lot of the process that I have invested into this deep rewrite of book 3 has just been tedious, because I'm trying to do things like shift the POV to one POV at a time, where originally where I'd write is I would go from one POV to the other. I would make it clear whose POV it was, but I wouldn't stick with one for the duration of a segment within a chapter. I would kind of go back and forth. Hey buddy, don't move my camera. Eugene is probably going to bump into the camera because he's big and he can't help it. So here's some things that I've learned about recording an audiobook for myself. So first of all, I have, as you saw in the video, I have commandeered a closet in a spare bedroom. I've hung Halloween costumes around me, because that's what I had when I was setting it up, and in some coats and things, spare coats that are left in that closet pretty much all the time. Curtain in front. I've got a foam thing that kind of fits behind the mic, and I've got a really nice vocal mic that is meant for speaking more than singing, that I've set up, and I will have my laptop in front of me, and I will read and just kind of skip through the book as I am reading. I remember what I was talking about before now, how much pleasure I get from it. And you have to get into this groove, or I do, where when I make a mistake, it has to be very obvious to my engineer, who is my brother, that there's something he needs to correct there, cut out. And so if I have to start something again, say something again, I try to go back and start that sentence again, just so that he always knows I'm going to cut back to that sentence. So he doesn't have to listen to where I pick back up and then cut around and figure out what to cut out and what to leave back, before the mistake. He can just go back and find the beginning of that sentence, clip it, and know that when I start again, it's going to be that sentence. Does that make sense? So he and I are both kind of wired to have that kind of procedure. We have methods in life in general, in the way we do practically everything. So that works well for me, and it works well for him. And I've been surprised at how much pleasure I get out of reading the audiobook. I feel that high because I'm experiencing the book without having to think about editing at all. Like, I will not allow myself to think about whether something needs to be edited or corrected, because it can't be. Because literally, book one is at the printer. And I can't remember if I said this or not. My camera malfunctioned and it cut off. So I am waiting for my proof copy from book one to come back from the printer right now. And then after I get that and just proof it, which is just a formality because I'm pretty sure it's going to be exactly what I want, because the German has been doing my formatting and she is a stickler for detail, right? So as soon as that comes back, I'm going to order some pre-sale copies to give out to a certain number of people who've, for whatever reason, have helped in the process or supported me or, whatever, for Christmas. So hopefully I can do that and get those in time for Christmas, but I don't know if I will or not. But that book is finished. Like, I am not editing another word of that book until, it's a few years have passed, and maybe I'll, collect what revisions there are and make some corrections. But it is what it is, and it's going to stay that way. Like, this, there may be a tweak here and there, a typo corrected, or some kind of a formatting issue corrected, but otherwise that book is done. Book one is done. And so now I'm not reading this book or seeing this book from an editor's perspective, or even from a writer's perspective. I am just reading the book almost exclusively from the perspective of a reader. Now, I am the writer, so I do experience it a little bit differently than a typical reader would. But it's really fun to be able to do that, to just read the book and enjoy it. So to record the audiobook, I can only record 3 to 4 chapters at a time. So any given day, the goal would be for me to get in there every morning in my little closet studio where I'm surrounded by cloth to, improve the acoustics. I've got a really decent, good, I would say middle grade mic, because I can't afford like high end studio mic, but a decent, really good studio mic, connected directly to a Zoom recorder, and which I've gotten my brother to set levels of and things, so that when I'm recording, it's good. When he imports it, all he has to do from there is work on it, edit it, and we don't have to worry about it clipping or anything like that. Because if the track clips, the track is done. Like, it's no good. So there are some limitations. There are some things you got to be careful with when, recording audio, which is why I'm fortunate to have someone who can help engineer that. And I am familiar enough with capturing good audio or decent audio to get it to a point where he can take it and then make it what it needs to be. And I know that most people aren't going to do that, or aren't going to have that option. I will tell you that there are, as you might expect, there are loads, I don't know if there are loads, but there are ways to get a narrator for your book. It's not going to be cheap. And if it is cheap, then they're probably not going to pay a lot of attention to perfecting it. Because, you think about it. A book, on average, is going to be, 9 to 15 hours long, just listening straight through. It's theoretical that you're spending at least 50% more time recording than you will actually end up with finalized tracks. So if it takes 10 hours to play the entire audiobook, it's going to take at least 15 hours to record it. And I would think that book one may be around, the 9 or 10 hour mark. I don't know, I'm guessing. Each chapter right now is roughly running between 20 and 30 minutes on average, unless it's a really short chapter. Usually right in the middle, like 22, 23, 24, 25. That's not right in the middle. 25 is, but 22 is not. It's closer to the front end, but we're not going to go into that right now. I have a tired voice. So my voice is tired today, so I am not recording an audiobook because I was up until 3 a.m. last night. It was in a smoky bar room. I did drink a little bit of alcohol. I did not get plastered. Thanks, Mom. Don't judge me. I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't realize you were watching. Yeah, so you do have to pay attention to how your voice sounds. If I record 3 chapters in a row and they're all 20 to 30 minutes, that's an hour and a half of me talking nonstop. That is going to wear out my voice. That's pretty much where I peak. I can't record more than 3 or 4 chapters in any given day. Because if I do, my voice is going to be tired. It's going to sound tired. And if you've ever listened to an audiobook, it's common for, you to hear between a section where the narrator stops, takes a break, starts again the next day, their voice sounds very different. That can be distracting. That can take you out of the story. So you have to work on trying to avoid those kinds of things as much as possible. So that's what I'm trying to do. So I'm not going to record audiobook chapters today, but I will tomorrow. So the goal would be for me to get up every morning, kind of have my coffee, do my morning routine of acclimating to the day, and then go and record 3 chapters before actually starting whatever other work I have. So that's what I'm going to shoot for in December. We'll see how that goes. I'm having surgery next Friday on my neck, which means that they're going to have to put a tube down my throat, which is probably going to make me have a sore throat for a few days and hoarse, and who knows. I may have to wait. So I don't know if I'm going to get these audiobooks recorded in time for my January 4th release for book 1 or February 4th release for book 2, but hopefully I'll get pretty close. So that's all the news that is news across the nation. It's all the news that is news as far as me reading my books. It is very exciting. Where I am is very exciting. The process of getting these books ready to self-publish, getting them, I haven't gotten them on Amazon yet. I'm using Blurb to print the books, and there's a bit of confusion there. They said in their, with ISBNs and, if you buy your own ISBN, I bought my own ISBN. I'll talk about this maybe in a different video, but I bought my own ISBNs rather than having Blurb assign me a free one, because if Blurb assigns the ISBN, Blurb is listed as the publisher. And I don't know if that's going to matter down the road, but if I purchase the ISBN, I am listed as the publisher. So that seems like a better option, right? So that's the option I went with. The only downside is that ISBNs are fairly expensive, especially for someone like me. So I think I spent between $400 and $500 on, I want to say 5 of these ISBNs total, because they're a little bit cheaper if you buy them in a bundle of, I think it's 5. No, maybe it's 10. I don't remember. And each book has to have its own ISBN, each version of the book. So like the ebook, the audiobook, the paperback, the hardcover, and then if I re-release the book with significant changes, those have to have ISBNs too. So each book, you could have paperback, hardcover, ebook, audiobook, 4 ISBNs minimum for each book. So I think I bought a group of 10 because I know I've got enough to do the first 2 books. Then there, copyright, new law that says, you can't basically sue someone for copyright infringement unless you have registered your book with the Copyright Office prior to the infringement. And so there's that's another expense. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that. There's a ton of stuff. But we'll talk about that later. It's been tedious, but I'll tell you, getting the German to format the book has been one of the best decisions I've made in this end process. Because I'm a graphic designer, but I don't enjoy it. She does. She loves it. I hated it. It was stressful, and I would have just went with it and said it's good enough, and she will not. One less thing that's going to stress me out about it, so I can get back to enjoying the work. So that's it. I know there's probably like only a 1 in a 12 chance 1 in 12 chance that it's Christmas where you are while you're watching this video, because there's 12 months out of the year. Only one of those months is Christmas season, technically. So there's probably 1 out of 12 shot that it's Christmas when you're watching this. So Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And yes, yeah, I don't know what else to say. Other than peace out, home skillet. Have an amazing day. You're an amazing person. I almost said amazing guy, and I realized that was not inclusive, and I don't know if you're a guy or a gal or what. So have an amazing day, whoever you are. Big love. Take care of yourself. Listen, if you're not taking care of yourself, nobody's going to take care of you. And if there are people, if you are fortunate enough to have people in your life who do want to take care of you, they're not going to be able to take care of you unless you're taking care of yourself. They can help you, but only if you take care of yourself. So get that in your head. You're worth it. I don't know why I blew you a kiss. I think I've done that before. Not you. Past Eric. Eric of Audiobook Past. Please. And thank you.